Welcome to IAS Project. We are continuing with lectures on Indian economy for UPSC Civil Services Exam. We have talked about national income. We have seen that there are three methods that are used to measure national income. The first one is production method, the second one is income method, and the third one is expenditure method. Expenditure method is also called as consumption method. Also, in our previous videos, we have talked about all the measures that can be used to measure national income, except NNDI. In this video, let's talk about NNDI. NNDI is nothing but net national disposable income. If you have missed our previous videos on GDP, NDP and all of these, I would recommend please go and watch these videos in our playlist for Indian economy syllabus. NNDI stands for net national disposable income. The keyword here is net. So NNDI is nothing but GNDI minus depreciation. Depreciation, as we know, can also be called as consumption of fixed capital. So NNDI is nothing but GNDI, that is gross national disposable income minus consumption of fixed capital. We can write GNDI as GNI plus net current transfer from rest of the world. So using these two equations, we can write NNDI as NNI plus net current transfer from rest of the world. Obviously, NNI is nothing but GNI, that is gross national income minus depreciation. Let's talk about GDP deflator. We know that prices in base year are called as constant prices. Similarly, prices in the year under consideration are called as current prices of that year. So if we calculate national income using constant prices, it is called as real income or real national income. So if the national income is measured in terms of products and services value, then we get GDP. So if the GDP is measured at constant prices, it is called as real GDP. If the national income is measured at current prices, it is called as nominal income. So if the national income is GDP, then the GDP is called as nominal GDP if it is measured at current prices. What is GDP deflator then? GDP deflator is simply a measure of level of prices of all domestically produced goods as well as services. So it measures the change in the level of prices of all domestically produced goods and services in an economy in a particular period of time. And that particular period of time is usually one financial year. GDP deflator is also called as implicit price deflator for GDP. Why is it called as implicit? Because it can be calculated by using the measures of GDP itself. We do not need any further data. So therefore it is called as implicit price deflator for GDP. It is calculated to find the overall rise in the level of prices within the economy. GDP deflator is used for measuring inflation of entire economy. Therefore, it is called as inflation index at overall economy level. We will talk about inflation as a separate chapter because it is a very important chapter. Inflation can actually be measured using different indices. For example, we have consumer price index, we have wholesale price index, and again in consumer price index, we have different types. For example, agricultural laborers, we also have industrial workers. We can also measure CPI based on urban or rural regions. So however, all these measurements only capture certain aspects and certain area of inflation within the economy. However, GDP deflator measures inflation for entire economy. So this is where GDP deflator differs from other indices that measure inflation. We will talk about all these in a separate chapter for inflation. GDP deflator is given by this formula. It is nothing but nominal GDP of an year divided by real GDP of an year into 100. Let's talk about national income growth. National income growth can be calculated either at current prices or constant prices. It is usually measured in terms of percentage increase over previous year. If we measure national income growth at constant prices, it is called as real growth or real income growth. For example, if the national income is GDP, then if GDP growth is measured at constant prices, it is called as real GDP growth. Similarly, if national income growth is measured at current prices, it is called as nominal growth. So if the national income is again, let's say GDP, then the GDP growth at current prices is simply called as nominal GDP growth. Let's try to understand the concept of GDP deflator and national income growth using an example. In this example, there is a country called as Imaginistan, which produces only 3 items and whose produce price as well as market price are given in the table. The base year is given as 2018. And now we have to calculate what is the national income growth at constant prices and current prices for 2 years, that is 2021 and 2022. Also, we need to calculate what is the GDP deflator for years 2021 and 2022. We have already discussed this problem in our video on constant prices and current prices. So please check out that video so that you can understand it better. However, we are going to quickly recap how we solve this problem. For calculating 2021 national income at constant prices, which is nothing but real GDP, we took 2021 quantity and 2018 prices. That is 2021 quantity and 2018 prices. We got the real GDP as 510. For calculating 2021 national income at current prices, that is nothing but nominal GDP, we use the quantity as well as prices from 2021. So we use this quantity with these prices and we got the nominal GDP as 590. Similarly, for the year 2022 also, we got real GDP as 455 and nominal GDP as 610. So the national income for the 3 years at constant prices as well as current prices is given in this table here. How do we calculate GDP deflator for 2021? We know that GDP deflator for 2021 is nothing but nominal GDP for 2021 divided by real GDP into 100. So this is nothing but nominal GDP for 2021 is 590 divided by real GDP is nothing but 510 into 100. This comes out to be 115.7%. So the GDP deflator for 2021 is nothing but 115.7%. Also, we can infer from here that the prices have grown by 15.7% in 2021. This is compared to the base year, that is 2018. Similarly, GDP deflator for 2022 is nothing but 610 divided by 455 into 100. So 610 divided by 455 into 100, this is nothing but 134.1%. So we can say GDP deflator for 2022 is 134.1%, or the prices have grown in the entire economy by 34.1%. If we want to calculate national income growth for 2021 at current prices or constant prices, we need to know what is the national income at 2 years, that is at 2020 and 2021. However, the data for 2020 is not available in this table. So we can simply say that national income growth for 2021 cannot be calculated. What about national income growth for 2022? We need data for 2021 and 2022. Do we have this data? Yes, we have this data. So it can be calculated. National income growth for 2022 at constant prices will be, so let's consider only constant prices. So these are the constant prices. So for 2022, it is nothing but national income of 2022, which is 455, minus national income of 2021, which is 510, divided by national income of 2021, that is 510 times 100. This will come out to be minus 10.8%. So this means that national income has fallen by 10.8% from 2021 to 2022 at constant prices. What about current prices? So these are the current prices. So let's use this. At current prices, national income growth for 2022 is nothing but, so this will be given by 610 minus 590 divided by 590 into 100. This will be nothing but 3.4%. So national income has grown by 3.4% during 2021 to 2022 when considered in current prices. It is very important to note that almost all of the national income growth or GDP growth or GNI growth or whatever the parameters for national income are, they are usually measured at constant prices because we want the base year to be fixed. Here, so minus 10.8% is more relevant than 3.4%. So this shows that economy has actually fallen, although at current prices, the national income has grown by 3.4%. Usually, whatever the headline GDP figures that are given in the newspapers or in the statements of government, they are usually always referring to constant prices. So you should remember this. Let's talk about capital output ratio and incremental capital output ratio. Capital output ratio is nothing but the amount of capital that is needed to produce a single unit of output. So it is given by formula capital divided by output. It is simply nothing but ratio between capital and output. Sometimes it is also called as capital to output ratio. It shows the amount of capital that is required to produce a product. So COR is nothing but capital divided by output. If output equals to 1, then COR is nothing but capital. So COR can be defined as the amount of capital that is needed to produce a single unit of output. Then what is incremental COR? Incremental COR is nothing but the additional amount of capital that is required to produce one additional output. So we can write ICOR as additional capital divided by additional output. Additional output is nothing but growth or income growth or national income growth. So ICOR is nothing but whatever is the additional capital that is required to produce a single unit of income growth. So ICOR can be written like this: incremental capital divided by incremental output. Incremental, that is nothing but additional capital divided by additional output. Or ICOR is nothing but capital investment divided by growth, because incremental capital is nothing but new capital investment or additional capital investment, and incremental output is nothing but economic growth. So it shows the capital investment that is required for sustaining or achieving a growth rate. So what do we mean by this? We can write this formula like this: growth is nothing but capital investment divided by ICOR. So if we want 1% of growth, then ICOR will be nothing but the amount of capital that is needed to sustain this 1% of growth. Lower the value of ICR, higher will be the efficiency of the capital in producing incremental output, that is nothing but growth rate. Let's understand this with this formula. Let's say capital investment in an economy is 16% and ICOR is 2%. Then growth will be nothing but 8%. Let's say if ICOR changes to 4%, then growth will be 16% divided by 4%, that will be 4%. So here we can understand that when ICOR is low, growth is high, and when ICOR increases, growth decreases. This shows that growth and ICOR are in inverse relation to each other. So the lower the value of ICOR, higher will be the efficiency of the capital in producing incremental output or the growth rate. Let's follow up in the next video. Please like and share this video. Also subscribe to IAS Project. Thank you.